persists. In the midst of untruth, truth persists.
Hello and welcome. I'm Sima Katauka and you're watching the China Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. China has sent a Coast Guard ship formation through the Japan-administered Senkaku Islands on a rights enforcement patrol, escalating tensions after Japan's newly elected Prime Minister stated her public defense posture on Taiwan. The move marks a sharp intensification of the diplomatic clash between the two nations. China has warned Japan of a crushing defeat and urged Chinese citizens to avoid traveling to Japan after a row of diplomatic clash, as 3 Chinese airlines offered free refunds or changes on Japan flights amid escalating tensions over Taiwan, which is only 110 kilometers from Japanese territory. China is leading the UN COP30 summit amid the United States' absence, which is the first time in 3 decades at this summit, as COP30 leaders praise China's clean energy leadership as its companies and diplomats showcase green tech power and push for constructive agreements on the summit's agenda. China is rushing the uncrewed Shenzhou 2022 to the Tiangong space station, 6 months ahead of the schedule, after Shenzhou 20 was damaged while docked, forcing 6 astronauts to overstay and leaving the new crew without an emergency return craft now. Taiwan is grappling with rising draft-dodging concerns after extending compulsory military service to a year, exacerbating public unease as a recent poll suggests more than 50% of respondents, including young adults, are unwilling to defend the island, a surge in reluctance compared to 2 years ago. Thailand says trade talks with the US will continue despite a border clash with Cambodia that killed 1 civilian, with government spokesperson Siripong Ang Khalsalkulkiat quoting President Donald Trump as supporting separation of tariff negotiations from regional tensions. This follows recent violence and a peace pact signed in Kuala Lumpur. Thousands of Mexicans staged Generation Z protests after the public murder of an anti-crime mayor, with demonstrations in Mexico City, as local Public Safety Secretary Pablo Vasquez said 100 police were injured, 40 hospitalized, along with 20 civilians, while authorities made 20 arrests and issued 20 administrative sanctions. At least 6 people were killed and dozens injured when an illegal fireworks factory exploded in Hyderabad Division, Sindh. The blast sparked a major fire and building collapse. Rescue teams found more victims inside, and authorities have launched a full safety investigation. Now we start with China and Japan. The China Coast Guard said in a statement that a Chinese guard ship formation has passed through the waters of the Senkaku Island in the rights of enforcement patrol. This comes as diplomatic tensions between China and Japan have intensified since Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi told the parliament that a hypothetical Chinese attack on democratically ruled Taiwan could trigger a military response from Tokyo. The remark sparked an angry response from Beijing, which has signaled that it expects Takaichi to retract them in some fashion. China and Japan have repeatedly faced off around the Japan-administered islands, which Beijing calls Diaoyu and Tokyo calls the Senkaku. Now for this discussion, we welcome Andrew K.P. Long. He's a China strategist, joins us live from Hong Kong. Thank you very much, Andrew, for joining us again. Good to see you. Andrew, can you tell us about this island and its a specific or strategic importance for both the nations?
Well, these islands, China call them the Diaoyu Islands, is the fishing islands, and the Japanese call them the Senkaku Islands. Just barren rocks, maybe sort of a couple of 100 miles from Japan. And these islands were supposed to be under US administration during the war, Second World War. And after the war, the treaty that Japan, of course, signed and having surrendered, agreed to return all occupied territories to their original sovereign states, including Taiwan, including all these islands. But some islands after the Second World War were under US administration. For example, even Okinawa and of course the Diaoyu Islands were simply neglected because it's so small, just barren rocks. And then afterwards, the United States returned those islands to Japan, without the Chinese government agreeing to this transfer. And of course, the Diaoyu Islands or the Senkaku Islands, of course, it is a very strategic point because it's quite close to Japan, and of course, it's right in the East China Sea. Now, this latest Japanese Prime Minister, the lady Prime Minister, is known to be a very hawkish politician. She had been the previous Prime Minister Abe's protege, and she's risen to power based on her very hawkish policies. These policies are gaining currency because there are a number of Japanese people who see that it was so long after the Second World War. Japan wants to become a normal country, and even supporting a revision of the wartime constitution of Japan, empowering Japan to militarize, building up its own armed forces. But that was, of course, in contravention with the wartime constitution of Japan. So all these translate into a more hawkish attitude, hyping up the Taiwan threat, saying it is threatening Japan's national security, and so supporting the dynamics for militarization. And of course, this has angered Beijing because Taiwan is the reddest of the red lines as far as Beijing is concerned. And this latest patrol by Coast Guard vessels of China is intended to send a warning note to the Japanese Prime Minister.
Yes, indeed. And how could this China's use of rights enforcement patrols around these islands reflect the broader strategy of China now?
Well, of course, China has no intention of invading or recovering these islands by military force, because that would unsettle the stability of the whole region. But it's using softer tactics like diplomacy and also military deterrence against any form of unfriendly gestures on the part of Japan. But I think that the greatest military power in the Asia Pacific remains the United States, and the United States doesn't want war in the Asia Pacific. Because the United States, for example, Taiwan, the United States no longer recognize Taiwan, and is recognizing Beijing as the rightful authority representing the whole of China under the One China policy. But of course, the United States also has an Taiwan Relations Act, which empowers the Trump administration to continue to supply arms to Taiwan. So I think that this the situation is a question of a subtle tussle of measures short of war. But I think that as far as the Japanese new prime minister is concerned, is trying to exploit this kind of situation for her political gains.
Right. Thank you very much, Andrew, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we stay on this topic now. Now, looking at Taiwan, Taiwan is facing growing public unease over compulsory military service, with an increase in draft evasion cases following the government's decision to extend the conscription period to 1 year. A recent poll shows over 52% of respondents are unwilling to sacrifice their lives to defend Taiwan, which is an increase of 8.4 percentage points from just 2 years ago. This reluctance is especially strong among young adults, who view military service as a disruption to their careers. Meanwhile, authorities are investigating widespread draft dodging, including claims of falsified medical diagnosis, despite rising tensions with Beijing. Many Taiwanese remain skeptical about the likelihood of war, viewing conscriptions as an inconvenience rather than a necessity. Experts warn that Taiwan's defense readiness is undermined by this disconnect, while reforms to conscription and military training are now being considered. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Andrew K.P. Long. He's a China strategist, joins us live from Hong Kong. Thank you very much, Andrew, for staying with us. Andrew, what do you think is the background or the reason behind these Chinese youth or young adults unwilling to participate in defending Taiwan and joining the army? And how do you think, how should Taiwan do this or for their defense?
Well, of course, Taiwan has lost its international recognition as a country right after President Nixon's historic visit to Beijing and recognizing the People's Republic of China as the rightful authority representing the whole of China under the One China policy. But diplomatically, of course, Taiwan has been increasingly sidelined. It's only very handful of very small countries are still recognizing Taiwan. And of course, economically, Taiwan also depends hugely on the mainland, China's mainland market. The two peoples on both sides of the Taiwan Strait are increasingly interacting in terms of tourism, in terms of investments, in terms of business opportunities, including production of Chinese films and TV series. So I think that there's a momentum towards unification. However, most of the Taiwanese people do not support unification, nor do they dare to declare independence. Especially if declaring independence would trigger a war, because the Beijing already enacted an anti-succession act long time ago, decades ago, to forestall this eventuality. And it's building up its military again to forestall, to deter any movement towards declaring formal independence. The United States doesn't want war over Taiwan. It has never, of course, it doesn't recognize Taiwan as an independent country, but it doesn't want war over Taiwan. But it has an Taiwan Relations Act, which empowers the American administration to continue to supply arms to Taiwan. Of course, this will bring more money to the U.S. administration. But on the question of sovereignty, the United States always maintained this, it should be left for the both sides. But it opposes unilateral changing the status quo by military means. That remains the United States policy. But Beijing is not about to invade Taiwan anytime soon, because it's seeing this as a deliberate trap because the Taiwan waters remain a treacherous divide. And Beijing's preference remains peaceful unification in outlining all these over the dynamics which I've outlined: people exchanges, business opportunities, economic diplomatic isolation, and military deterrence. Now the Taiwanese young people, because a lot of them have been to mainland China, the two sides of which the people are visiting each other through tourism. Of course, the two systems are very different politically, but it's not the end of the world. They are not. Most of them are now, as you outlined at the beginning of this program. They do not see why they should risk their lives and to defend something which is not defendable, even though
Yes.
they remain opposing unification, but they know that the clock is ticking because President Xi set a deadline of 2049. But still, some reasonably long way to go. So there are sufficient dynamics for both sides to come to terms. But on the one hand, they don't want to change the status quo. On the other hand, they don't want to be pushed into a war. And that's what's happening.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Andrew K.P. Long for joining us today and sharing that insight as a China strategist throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now we move on and we stay in Asia. A government spokesperson from Thailand has said that the country will go ahead with talks on finalizing a reciprocal trade deal with the United States. The spokesperson has added that the discussions will remain separate from issues relating to its border dispute with Cambodia. Bangkok had earlier said that Washington was suspending negotiations until the Thai government reaffirmed its commitment to a U.S.-brokered ceasefire deal with Cambodia. However, the temporary suspension occurred before a call between Thai Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul and U.S. President Donald Trump on 14th of November. Washington and Bangkok last month announced a framework for reciprocal trade that would see the U.S. maintain a 19% tariff on Thai products while identifying products where tariffs could potentially be adjusted or cut to zero. Now for this discussion, we welcome Kin Phi, Director and General of IRIC from Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Now looking at this, what more can you tell us about Thailand and Cambodia's state? And also, why do you think Thailand is very bold about saying that the trade talks with U.S. could continue regardless of the situation with the border dispute with Cambodia?
Yes, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
having me. As you mentioned earlier, that Thailand say trade talk with the United States will continue despite the ongoing dispute with Cambodia. But what's important here is not just the trade angle, but the fact that Cambodia has once again shown restraint, responsibility, and commitment to peace, even while facing repeated provocations. So let us unpack this with clarity, fairness, and fact. That, as you know, that over the past week, tensions have risen because Thailand accused Cambodia of laying new landmine and allegation Cambodia strongly rejects, and which does not match Cambodia's historical record of its internationally fresh demining effort. Cambodia has spent decades removing landmines, not planting them. So let's remember that Cambodia has consistently been suffering the consequences of Thai troop movement, border incursions, and military pressure. So before every major flare-up, it is often Cambodian civilians and Cambodian soldiers who face the danger first. Despite this, Cambodia has repeatedly chosen diplomacy over confrontations. So why? Now Thailand say its trade negotiation with the U.S. should continue separately from the border issue. That is fine. That is fine. In fact, it may directly help Cambodia by reducing the risk of Thailand using the conflict internally as a political tool. But it is also exposed something important. Bangkok knows its economic needs cannot be jeopardized by a dispute it triggers. Meanwhile, Cambodia maintained a principled approach, reaffirming commitment to peaceful mechanism, respecting international norm, and consistently calling for dialogue. So this sanctioned Cambodia image internationally as a more responsible party.
And Mr. Kim, what strategic implications does the U.S. have, or what's the underlying U.S. interest to broker ceasefire, and what's U.S.'s expectations for Thailand and Cambodia's relations?
As you see that the U.S. decided to temporarily halt the trade talk with Thailand until Bangkok recommitted to ceasefire is previously agreed to. So this is significant. It is so that the Washington value peace, expect Thailand to respect previous agreements and see stability with Cambodia as a priority. So Cambodia benefit from this international push because it reinforces what the Cambodian government has been saying all along: respect the ceasefire, follow the mechanism, talk, don't escalate. Cambodia doesn't need to change its stand. The world is recognizing Cambodia consistency. So even as Thailand tried to downplay the dispute internationally, the contract is clear that Cambodia is steady, Cambodia is transparent, Cambodia is open to ASEAN mechanism, Cambodia is committed to peace, Cambodia has nothing to hide. So I think that it is very important that two countries are consistently committed to the ceasefire, to the peace accord facilitated by Malaysia and the U.S. And I think that the U.S. What they want is that they want Thailand to faithfully implement and honor the ceasefire and the peace accord that signed in Kuala Lumpur with the facilitation of Malaysia and the U.S. If Thailand still ignore and still suspends the peace accord, I think Thailand is undermining the effort made by President Trump. And you know that the U.S., the Trump administration, has trying very hard to bring about the peace deal between Cambodia and Thailand. And I think that the tariff is strong enough for the Thailand to recommit to the ceasefire.
And lastly, Mr. Kin, how could Thailand's pursuit of a reciprocal trade framework with the U.S. affect Cambodia's regional economic strategy, and particularly if it alters Thailand's broader geopolitical alignment?
To me, I see some possibilities here with regard to the tensions between the two countries, with the engagement from ASEAN, as Malaysia as a chair, and the United States under leadership of President Trump. The first possibility is that Thailand reaffirm the ceasefire. Cambodia immediately benefit from reduced tension and increased international support. The second possibility is that Thailand continue to separate economics and politics. This buys time, giving Cambodia a more peaceful environment while its economy keep growing. And the third possibility is that if any incident occur, the international community now know which country has consistently behaved responsibly and which has destabilized the situation. And finally, I think that the ASEAN diplomacy kicked in Cambodia's position aligned perfectly with ASEAN principle of peaceful settlement and non-aggression.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Kin Fee for joining us today, all the way from Phnom Penh, and sharing that insight. Thank you very much. Now we move on. China has emerged as a leading force in the global fight against climate change at COP30 in Belém, Brazil, even as Brazil and the United States were absent from the UN's annual International Climate Summit for the first time in 3 decades. At COP30, China's country pavilion dominates the entrance hall of the vast conference grounds, where the executives from its largest clean energy companies showcased their visions for a greener future, while Chinese diplomats work behind the scenes to ensure productive negotiations. According to the International Renewable Energy Agency, water flows to where there is space, and diplomacy often flows the same path. IRNA has noted that China's dominance in renewable energy and electric vehicles is strengthening its position in global climate diplomacy. Now we move on to our next news. In a move to maintain the integrity of its space program, China has fast-tracked the launch of the Shenzhou 2022 spacecraft, sending it to the Tiangong space station 6 months ahead of the schedule. The unmanned mission, which will carry vital supplies and equipment, aims to address a security gap after Shenzhou 20 was damaged while docked at Tiangong last week. This damage, believed to be caused by space debris, forced the Shenzhou 20 crew to extend their mission by 9 days. Shenzhou 22 is now being sent to ensure that the current crew can return safely in April 2026 after completing their 6-month shift. Tiangong, China's orbiting space station, can host up to 6 astronauts temporarily, but its design supports 3-4 longer stays. The fate of the damaged Shenzhou 20 remains unclear, with experts suggesting it may be deorbited over the Pacific. Now we move on to Pakistan. At least 6 people have been killed and dozens injured after a powerful explosion tore through a fireworks factory in Hyderabad division in Sindh province of Pakistan. Officials say the blast triggered a fire that caused a warehouse collapse, throwing bricks several meters away. Rescue teams are still clearing the rubble as fears grow that more victims may be trapped inside. Several of the injured are in critical condition, with doctors reporting severe burn wounds. Police say the fireworks were being made illegally in a house without a license, and a factory owner is missing. Sindh's Home Minister has ordered a full investigation into the factory's legal status and safety practices, calling the incident unacceptable. And that's a wrap on the China Report. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.
What we can do